From17 once again. This is my Rise of the Tomb Raider Survivor difficulty video walkthrough. This is Syria, the Prophet's Tomb, and we are slowly progressing into the game. So, this area right now really reminded me at the very beginning of Mission Impossible 2, even though technically it's two completely different coloured rocks. But whenever I see rocks like this in a sunny environment, it makes me think of good old Tom Cruise as he climbed that place in America, which is rather famous. But this is not that. This is tomb raiding, of course, and we are Lara Croft. And I'm hoping at this point you've noticed just how goddamn beautiful this game is. It's a really, really impressive looking title. It's got a great consistency to its aesthetic, and it does a lot of things really well. There's a lot of great particulates, there's a lot of great moments of lighting. Some of the dynamic lighting in this game is the best I've ever seen on a console, by far. Like, some of the lighting on this is absolutely beautiful, and they use it well too, to really grace the level design. The times when you can see the lighting kiss the surfaces, it looks absolutely astounding, and it's the type of stuff that really strikes chords with me. And I can't wait to see this game on PC when you crank it up to see just how far it goes, because my biggest criticism with this game is the lacking 60 frames, and normally I wouldn't say too much about it, but it affects the gameplay in this one massively. Because I think this game looks fantastic when it comes to moving. I don't think you notice too much that it's only 30, because I think the frame rate is just the right amount in this game, and just the right amount of consistency that you can learn to play with it, and it's perfectly capable of helping you play. However, it limits the sensitivity, and that's where it really affects my personal ability to do well in these games. Because the first thing I do when I play a game is I immediately crank up the sensitivity to max, and I spend my first playthrough and my first few hours with the game learning to adjust to the sensitivity so that I don't overshoot my distances, and so that I'm a bit more coherent on the sticks. And a game such as this, I have it on max and I'm fighting the analogs to turn, and it's a feeling that really irks me personally, because I like to feel like I'm quick. I like to feel like I'm as fast as I'm capable of being, and I take a lot of pride in being able to get to a target quickly and to use the higher sensitivity to give me the edge, and a game such as this doesn't allow me to do it. So there's a lot of frustration tied to that, and I think 100% the reason why the frame rate is solid, and the reason why you cannot move the sensitivity to as quick as other games that let you move it lightning fast, is because if you did, the game would shit the bed and the frame rate would die. And the reason is they've got a limiter on it, and I think that's 100% why. And it's a shame, but as I mentioned, I do think that the game runs fine. Like, look at the lighting here. I love the edge of the bricks, how it gives them that kind of halo, that deposit of just the brightest white. Really nice. And then we push out here into this pretty impressive vista. The game is full of these kind of moments of grandeur. There's some really nice things to look at here as we enter the hidden oasis, and you're going to be immediately faced by the platforming on this section. So the universal rules of Rise of the Tomb Raider's platforming is if it's got white on it, you generally want to jump towards it. If there's white scrapings on a wall, it means you can do the double jump where she kicks up off the wall. And that moment there, I died on my first run because she jumped to the left when I was holding up, and it was hilarious. And then there's a section coming up here where if you don't jump right at the edge of this, you can end up putting yourself in a bad spot, because if you don't have enough momentum, she'll go in the pit, so be very careful with that. The great news here, folks, as much as I'm going to say that the platforming on this game every so often fucks you, which it does, the checkpoints are wonderful. The checkpoints all the way through the game are great. There are only, I think, 4 instances where the checkpoints annoyed me, and they annoyed me for a reason that most people will never notice, and that is they saved progress I didn't think I deserved. Which, how many times do you hear me say that on these walkthroughs? You really don't, which is testament to just how great the checkpoints here are. And they do definitely affect the difficulty, and we're going to have a massive discussion about difficulty on this game, don't you worry. But I still think, as far as checkpoints go, they should never dictate difficulty. They should make difficulty more appealing. That's my personal mentality when it comes to that, my own ethos when it comes to checkpoints. As if you don't like scorpions, this moment might not be your favourite, but it's another example of some nice stylized lighting. However, there's no real gameplay here. I'm pushing the analog forward, and it's kind of just being all cinematic, which I don't mind it so much, but I'm one of those people. I'm kind of old-fashioned with my gameplay. As much as I like, you know, impressive-looking moments, if the foundation of it is holding an analog forward, I can live without. I'm a guy who definitely preferences action over, you know, just the impressive nature of what you've built. And I'm not immune to thinking, wow, this looks kind of cool, but you know, when you're playing a second time and you have to do it, it's a lot less cool. So it's interesting. The balance is something that I'll never truly understand because I'm not a game developer, and for all we know, that moment just then was a masking of a loading screen, like this bit here. Once we trip this trap, whenever you see a beam such as that and Lara goes under it, it does this very deliberate animation of her ducking and holding the beam and stuff, and it's nice. It's a nice touch. But I can't help but feeling, is that masking loading? Is that what that is? Because there doesn't seem to be any real validation for why it shows that. There are so many other moments where she just goes under things and it doesn't give you any kind of fancy angle, but then it does this weird thing. Like, look at it. It's just like Army of Two when they opened the doors, and I think it must be loading. Because if it isn't, it's, you know, the animator just had a field day and put something nice on that one aspect of the game, which is pretty nice, but it just doesn't make sense to me. As we fall down now and we're introduced to some of the puzzle aspects of this game. Whenever you see a weak wall, it will show up in your vision mode, so it shouldn't be too hard to spot them. And then if you go up to them with the climbing axe, you can break them and they will generally flood water, and then whatever the water's done should then enable you to come through on the puzzle, which for this one, it allowed me to stand on this platform, shoot that weak link, and then climb on this crate, and then get the hell out of this dirty, infesting, dirtiness of that water, whatever the hell that was. Because that's the thing, isn't it? Just think of all the the pathogens and the germs and what have you. You could have the plague, the good plague, and I say the good plague almost ironically because it was a horrendous thing. And thankfully, we could probably cure it nowadays with some paracetamol and what have you. As Lara's fighting for her life in another one of these moments. There's essentially just a string of quick time events. But that's one of the things I've always been the most afraid of in stuff like this. If I was there and I was exploring these potentially lost tombs, you never know what's sitting in the water, dude. You know, you're just jumping into it and your body's drinking it in. Like, the stuff that you absorb through your pores is ridiculous. She's going to come out of this and have, super SARS. She didn't even know. She just dies. You run forward and you die because she caught some kind of fucking, you know, 1st century herpes. We have absolutely no full understanding of the full capacity of dirty water. That is a stunning view, Lara, I do agree. But here is another puzzle section. Breaking walls, jumping on things, doing a nice dive there. There's actually an achievement and a trophy for diving off of a certain height, which is quite nice. I don't know if you can dive and break her neck like you used to be able to in the old Tomb Raiders. I guess we'll just have to look into that. But as I was saying about the checkpoints before we started as we started talking about the concept of dirty water and the potential bad things that live in it. The checkpoints are great, guys. They're really fast. It loads quickly and it gets you back in the action, and there's a couple times where there's a bit of a cutscene before them or things of that nature, but it's never too long. The worst is the final boss, because it shows you him hitting you with the butt of his gun and then you have to run away and then it gives you control, and that's pretty much the only time where you sat watching and waiting to get back in the game. So kudos on that. The people who made this game, is it Crystal Dynamics? Or is that just the trademark from IDOS? I can't remember. But the devs, anyhow. They really did a good job with that. The times where the checkpoints weren't as great, for me personally, were moments when I'd finished a sequence and it had immediately checkpointed and I restarted to try and do the section again because I wasn't happy with my performance, and it put me in the middle of nowhere in a really dodgy spot with enemies really close. And it happens, as I mentioned earlier, about 4 times in this walkthrough. And what I'm going to do, folks, for the sake of complete 100% transparency, I'm going to leave it in because I didn't die. And when I make walkthroughs, the only things I generally edit out are the downtime, are the mistakes and the deaths. And I make sure that it's essentially just this sequence of how to beat the game, where to go and what to do, because that's what a good walkthrough should be. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to show you me restarting, just to show you exactly how it happened, and then I'm going to show you where the game put me, so that you now have a frame of reference. And of course, if you're just following these for a helpful guide, then you don't have to worry, because if the game puts you past the encounter that you were having trouble with, you've won, and there's no issue there. But for me, of course, when I'm trying to edit this and link this together, it's a little trickier. And the first reason that I found this out, that the game did this, was I got hurt by ambient explosions that happen programmed. Just programmed explosions of a certain part of a firefight. And it knocked me over, and it put blood on my screen. And I'm like, I'm not having this, this is bullshit. I did that entire fight without taking damage, and then I get blown up by fucking nonsense. And it looked unclean, it looked messy to me. So I'm like, I'm not going to restart and do that again so I can get something that looks nicer. Because the fight is perfect. It works every time. You will clear the entire room and you'll have no issue. It just works. But I run to the right-hand corner, and the right-hand corner has got this ambient explosion in it that knocks me over and makes it look all shitty. Then, of course, I press restart, and it puts me into a bad spot where there's two dudes facing me down. And it puts me in a worse spot than I would have been had I done it naturally. Because this game doesn't have a cover system. Only it kind of does, if you were to ask it. But I would disagree, because I do not think any kind of automatic cover system is a cover system. It's a system that you spend more time fighting than you do being helped by it. So what you're going to see, guys, is I never go in cover. Never. And when I do, it's probably a mistake, or I didn't want to. Because just like Ocarina of Time had automatic jumping when you reached a ledge, this game will put you into a cover state when you go towards something. However, there's no button to initiate it. And when there's no button to initiate a cover, it doesn't work as well as it needs to. Because whenever you're close to any piece of geometry and you're aiming or you're just moving, the game is going to try and fight you and put you in cover. And it does it all the time. And I'm going to have some great moments in this walkthrough where I'm trying to aim and do the third-person, cover trick that every third-person shooter has, where you get to shoot round corners, and the game is fighting me, so I'm having to aim even harder and compensate. And it's annoying. And I wouldn't mind if when you went in cover on the game, if it enabled you to blind fire accurately, or if it enabled you to, to bob out and shoot quickly, but it really doesn't. She takes an eternity to get out of cover, and then when she does, she's completely exposed. It's not like she's just poking her head up, so the cover really doesn't help. And the AI on Survivor are amazingly accurate that the moment you bob out, you will get shot every time, because they hit you perfectly. It's a hard sell to try and convince people that the cover in this game is good, because it really isn't. And then there's the cover that breaks. So a lot of stuff to discuss and a lot of things coming up, guys. But that was the Prophet's Tomb. Thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.